We'll call the town board meeting for June 21st, 2023 to order. First item is the approval of the agenda. Notice we have some changes, Patrick?
Yeah, hold on.
No.
Hold on.
I had it with mine. Mr. Chair, please, it's the board. Please revise your consent agenda 5A to reflect your supplement. The revision is the park board recommended approving the permit with the condition the parking of participants is limited to the west parking lot at Bel Air Beach as the beach is open for swimming. Add under consent agenda 5G, credit card authorization, reassigning responsibilities of credit cards. And then under new business 8B, the memo from Heritage or from Jim Lake regarding installing irrigation here at Heritage Hall. And with that, Mr. Chair, I submit to you the revised agenda.
All right, board, have any changes?
No.
Hearing none, I need a motion to approve as amended.
Move to approve as amended?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, item 3 is approval of payment of the bills. Steve, you
I
sign
signed off. Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Item 4, approval of minutes from May 15th and June 5th. Any changes, deletions?
I saw none. Move to approve?
Second.
Motion's made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, item 5 is a consent agenda item. We got about 7 of them. The board pleases, or you want to pull any of these?
I will move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Aye.
Motion made second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, 6 is old business. We have none. So we're going to move on to 7, which is a public hearing. This is for ordinance number 37. I need a motion to waive the reading.
I'll move to waive the reading as properly published.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then I need a motion to open up the public hearing.
Move to open up the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, Evan, you going to recap this for us?
Certainly. Good evening, board. What we have tonight is an amendment request to our zoning ordinance. Our applicant is here tonight, so he'll be able to answer any questions, but I'll give you a brief summary here. I'm kind of outlining the information in your packet tonight. Our applicant recently bought some space here in the township. The address is 5960 on Highway 61. The property, you may notice, has a number of commercial uses on the site. It has a 2-story building on the north side of the parcel, as well as a single-story building on the south side of the parcel. Our applicant is looking to rent out space in that north building as offices on that second floor. This parcel is currently zoned B2 based off of our zoning map. In our zoning ordinance, you have the uses that are permitted in each zoning district. The B2 zone does not list too many office-type uses, and so what our applicant came to realize when reviewing our zoning ordinance is that we have certain specific office types that are permitted in the B2 zone, but no catch-all office use. And so where this gets interesting is that our B1 zone, you may have noticed, lists a long litany of very specific types of office uses. The B2 zone lists a few of those. And so I think, for example, a dentist office would be permitted in the B2, but a lawyer office would not be. So not really sure the exact history of what caused us to delineate certain uses as fine in the B1, but not in the B2. But that's the situation we have now with those two zones. And where it gets even more interesting is that the I1 or light industrial zone actually does have a catch-all office use. And so I'm not sure if at some point we thought, maybe it'd be good to have any office in this zone, but certain offices in the commercial zones. But we do have that listing in your I1 zone. So at some point there was the intent to just condense everything into singular office type use. Where it also gets a little interesting again is that the term offices is not defined in our zoning ordinance. Typically, your different uses should be defined so you actually know what these uses are. If people have any challenges or inquiries that you need to try to determine what they fit into. The parking section of our ordinance also does not actually list any of these office type uses or use the office term. But what it has is professional offices. So we have basically like 3 different language formats here in our zoning ordinance. And I think as part of our applicant's request, we can actually go in and kind of fix some of these outline issues to kind of make our code a little bit more consistent with each other. Part of the reason why our applicant is requesting an amendment to the B2 zone, they are not able to rezone to that I1 zone that catch-all offices is listed in that zone. They cannot rezone to that. They also are unable to rezone to B1. And the fact of the matter that is because some of the other uses on that site already, I believe the gas station and then the liquor store are not permitted in some of those other zones. And so since you can't get a variance to grant different uses in different zones, our applicant thought the best way to address this would be a zoning ordinance amendment, which you have before you tonight. Throughout your memo, kind of highlights some of the issues that I think would be rectified if we do amend this ordinance. The Planning Commission reviewed this back in April. We discussed some of the pros and cons of such an amendment. We discussed what some of our surrounding neighbors and other communities in the metro do. A lot of them typically have either a zone that's called offices that permits all these different types of uses, or they just use that general catch-all office term. And then if there is issues or additional requirements, you could set, a certain size limit, for example, on different offices. What you do have tonight before you is some proposed language. One, it would create a definition of office for your definition section. 2, it would add that proposed office catch-all term in your B2 zone listed as a permitted use. And then 3rd, it would also include cleaning up that parking section of the ordinance, also listing offices. And so that would, in theory, give you the definition of what an office use is. Again, it's just those long list of office uses already listed throughout your ordinance. 2, it would actually list that in your B2 zone. And then 3rd, it would kind of clean up that parking section to make sure everything is all consistent with the language. This was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission at their April meeting and is now before you tonight here for potential adoption.
All right, Scott?
Well, as you know, this is not my strength. However, I get a little nervous when I hear you use the word interesting repeatedly. So, you said that this is an opportunity to clean up some of the language, and I think, Patrick, this is something that the bigger picture, we are going through all of our language.
Correct.
Is this kind of sort of part of that?
I think this is kind of a 2 birds with 1 stone. It addresses, I think, some issues that our applicant had. And it kind of cleans up some of the issues that we've noticed at the staff level with the ordinance. And so I don't want to say the ordinance is written poorly, but when I say interesting, I think there's ways that we can alleviate these issues to make sure we don't have any, hang-ups or weird interpretation issues in the future.
Word is archaic.
That would also be another word to use, so.
I like interesting better. So even if the applicant had not made the request, we probably would wind up taking a look at this
Correct.
ordinance anyway.
I think this is, something that we would have done eventually, so.
Okay, and so I'm lost on the definition of an office, but that's okay. What I'm hearing, and maybe it'll come out later in the conversation, if there's a row of offices, you can't put a auto dealership right in the middle of it. In this case, we have not auto dealerships, but we have some more. We've got a gas station and a liquor store and a whole bunch of stuff on Leibel Street. Mm-hmm. And the thought is to put an office in the middle of that.
On top of.
On
but
top
yes.
of.
So the building that our applicant owns is 2 stories. The second floor right now is currently vacant. You looking at those permitted uses we have now, they haven't actually gotten too many bites or interests from people, but what he has gotten interest in is, different types of office uses. And what you have right now in your B2 zone is only a few very specific office types. I think if you use that general catch-all term of offices, one, it would kind of clear up any issues, if someone opens an office that isn't allowed. And I think it would alleviate any concerns our applicant would have in trying to market this parcel for use.
And again, I guess I'm just trying to, and I'm sure I will learn as the conversation progresses, but to me, it would seem less of it's more of whoever winds up getting in the office knows that they're going to be in the middle of a semi-commercial area.
Correct.
As opposed to, boy, I have a nice row of offices with a bunch of different professions, and then somebody's going to put a auto repair shop next to me. This is kind of almost the reverse, if I'm hearing you correctly.
I think in that situation, yeah.
Okay, all right, that was it, thank you.
This really, if they had the pictures of what it was to start with, it really was, correct me, someone was living in there.
So part of the issue, our applicant is actually trying to bring this into code. The previous owner had an apartment on the second story, which is actually not permitted. So if it helps you in your decision making, our applicant is actually taking the correct approach in getting their parcel zoned for the correct uses, whereas our previous owner just decided to do what they felt was right, which was actually not consistent with our zoning ordinance.
Which is not right.
Which is not right, so.
Interesting.
But the use of the upper floor as an office, just to make you a little more comfortable, it's not gonna, you wouldn't even know it's there, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
I'm sure.
storefronts are
Sure.
down below. And it I call it cleaner. It cleans up a little bit and defines more succinctly what we're talking about for offices. So I don't have any questions.
Couple things. Is your suggested amendment to the ordinance on page 53 with the red lettering and then
Yeah.
Yes, I don't have the full packet in front of me,
Okay.
but it should be right after that staff memo.
because it's a little confusing reading through this, exactly what we're doing here, so. And then, has the building inspector looked at this?
Is Mike?
Yes. Is there any concern because offices are now on the second story? I assume there's no elevator in that building. Does it have to be ADA?
There is an existing stair and access on the rear of the building. He does have building plans that he's submitted to the building inspector's office, and so in theory, once this is approved, he should be able to get any building permits necessary to remodel that upper story for office space.
Okay, what,
No elevator.
with no elevator, yeah, I
elevator,
don't know if ADA comes into a compliance. That'd be a question for Mike.
Yeah, I presume he's already reviewed it for ADA compliance. at
Okay,
this point.
then you mentioned parking. Obviously, when you say office spaces, that generates more parking. That's a pretty tight place right now for parking. I mean,
Correct.
I frequent that spot, so I'm curious too as to how many offices and how many parking is going to be allowed, or is it all in the back? Is there room? Was that gone through?
Yeah, so there is existing parking on the site, going off the site plan. Existing for the property, there is ample stalls to address any required parking for the new office spaces.
And then now too, you've got, I don't know, however many businesses, now you're going to start to be talking about signage. And I guess I don't know what exactly the signage is right now up there. If there's a monument or if everybody's got their own on the buildings. Was that addressed? Because I can see now all of a sudden we're coming in with variances for bigger signs, lighting on the signs. So,
I say any signage would have to be consistent with what we have now on our signage ordinance. So.
okay, because obviously if it's upstairs, are the signs in the back? Are they on the front? So that was another concern that, again, I think Mike might have to look at. And like I said too, with lighting, if you're adding a sign, are you putting a light on it? Is it just more intrusive? What else did I have? I think that was it. All right, any other questions of,
That is the language
Evan?
right there.
yeah, okay, that's what I was kind of curious, because I've been reading through this whole packet, I just want to make sure what we're talking
Right.
about here.
Yeah.
All right, if there's no other question on the board, I need a motion to open this up for public comment.
I'll move to open it up for public comment.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I believe the applicant is here. We want to just come up, state your name and address for the record for us. Sure.
Justin Hennig, 4605 Lily Avenue North, Lake Elmo, Minnesota. My wife actually grew up about a quarter mile away from this parcel in White Bear Ponds, and lived there while we started dating and so forth. And so knew the area really well. And so, yeah, when the property came up for sale, we decided to buy it. And as Evan had mentioned, it was previously, 5 tenants there, the liquor store, the Mexican restaurant, the jiu-jitsu studio, gas station, and school of diving. And the upstairs had been used as an apartment. And we knew that was not correct with the zoning. And, the township knew about it, and they said, that's an illegal use. And we said, we want to definitely do something with this that, does right by the township and by the residents. And so we kind of looked at, what are some options here? This particular part of the building was built in the late 1950s, and so probably precedes some of the current language, I would imagine. Apparently used to be a place where people would come into town and go fishing, and they would sleep on cots upstairs up there, is the story I was told anyways. Have a place to stay overnight when they're at Bald Eagle or White Bear. But clearly as an apartment, it just, was outside of zoning. And I guess a couple of possible downsides of the current setup is it's anachronistic. There's no front entryway. It's on the second floor. There is no elevator. It's true. But it was really a property that's been, in the area for 60 plus years. So a good chunk of the north building was added on in about 2000 to where Red Luna went into, and then Midwest School of Diving. And then the what's now the liquor store used to be a car wash. That building was erected in 2002. And I think around 2018, they decided, let's turn this into more retail. And so they did. So yeah, really looking at the options. I mean, we wanted to tenant the upstairs, but bring it up to code. And we initially were marketing it for retail and hadn't gotten a single hit. I mean, presumably because there's no front entryway. So then we started, hey, what would maybe work up here, and talking to the township and so forth. And, thought, maybe we could get a conditional use permit to do something else. As of right now, the language of the ordinance allows for a video store as an example.
There's a smart
They're
move.
very popular nowadays.
You can manufacture office furniture up there, evidently, and a bunch of other extremely niche types of language that are in the current White Bear Township ordinance. So, yeah, just kind of having the conversations with Evan and the rest of the folks at the township, to do something that would amend the ordinance. Really does speak to the language of the 2040 plan for the metro area, and to allow for some more inclusive language and some more just generalized language to bring things up into this new era, I guess. I guess just a couple other things that I heard you guys talking about. We certainly with our plans would be doing quite a bit for ADA compliance, which I know Mike wanted to talk about, Mike Johnson, in terms of we would be taking out a kitchen and putting in a kitchenette that would have the right height countertops, widening out some doors for the bathroom and some other things like that. It would be basically impossible and economically not feasible to put an elevator, because the entire space below this space is taken up by the BP gas station. So there's really no place to put it except unless it was put, exterior, and it'd probably $250,000 to put one of those in. And we're really just talking about a small office that would accommodate, various types of potential businesses. And so one of the interested parties is for mental health therapy, and they really like the idea of it's got what was a living room for the apartment. There's a fireplace and carpeting and kind of a homey feel to it, so it doesn't feel like you're in a hospital or a prison or something like that. It's something that kind of calms people. We've had a little bit of interest, nobody signing a lease or anything, because obviously we wanted to, ask for approvals and everything before we move forward with anybody. But some other various types of businesses, licensed massage therapists have expressed some interest. Some, I don't know, sort of, I don't know how you'd say it, like acupuncturists, like different kinds of, I would say, specialty medical types of things. Another thing I want to just briefly touch on is that in White Bear Township, with B2 zoning, which is considered general business, right, should be more inclusive than like a limited business, which B1 is. So B1 and light industrial do seem to allow almost any type of an office or clerical type of application, whereas this being in general business B2, it's much more prohibitive, which seems a little counterintuitive, it seems like. And then just another thing, like looking at the 4 kind of quadrants that are B2 on the map, on the White Bear Township map on the website, it's all developed. Every parcel is completely developed. So it would be pretty unlikely that somebody would come in and develop new office at some point in the future, which I think, Evan, you made that point at the last meeting very adeptly.
Are you looking at just one user up there or 2?
1 or 2?
So we've looked at a few different ideas, and one could be that business just comes in and takes the whole thing. The way that it kind of is shaped and already the outline, it could easily accommodate 2 businesses as well.
How many square feet is it?
It's about 2,050 square feet.
Okay.
So it's pretty small. It's just basically the footprint of the BP gas station, just the upstairs of it.
Okay.
So then we started looking at, there's co-working spaces that are out there where people can collaborate and work together on different ideas. But it seems like just individual private offices would probably be more pragmatic. And so we had an architect put together a plan, and it could be up to 6 individual offices with their own, lockable doors that are all separated. And then it would be a bathroom, a kitchenette, and then kind of what's now a living room could be like a reception area, or perhaps like a collaborative type of space, a place for people to take a break, or just a waiting room or something like that.
Those stairs are on the exterior?
Pardon me?
The stairs are on the exterior?
There's 2 sets of stairs. One, you enter from the exterior, you go through a door, and then you go up a set of stairs that's on the inside.
Okay.
And the other one is basically just a set of stairs on the exterior. So I believe when they converted it to an apartment, they had to have dual egress.
Right.
I believe with office, it would just need single egress, but our plan would be to keep those exterior stairs, replace some railings, put a new door on there that allows light in at all times. Obviously, somebody could put up a blind or something, but just to kind of update things, update the look on the back as well.
Is the existing liquor store on the end of the station that's been sitting empty, is there anybody in there now?
The liquor store?
Well, I know you moved the liquor store to the car wash, but where it used to be, next to
Oh,
the,
yeah.
is there anybody in there?
Yep.
Okay.
It's a jiu-jitsu studio.
Okay.
It's called Higher Ground Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. They've been in there since, let's say, August of 2021.
Oh, I guess when I was there, I guess I didn't notice there was something there.
Yeah, they have limited hours, so they have maybe 3 or 4 classes a day. So a lot of times it's just the lights are off and
So basically, you're full except for now the upstairs.
correct.
Okay.
Yep. I know it was brought up about the parking. So the lessees have some parking in the back that is per their lease. They have X amount of parking space, and we still have 12 spaces back there that are available. Based on the current ordinance, it would need 9 spaces based on 2,050 square feet divided by 250. Round up, it'd be 9. So there is additional. There's like some breathing room on top of that, based on the current ordinance.
Scott, any questions?
Have you, is this your first venture in owning a business like this or a property like this, or have you done this before?
As far as rental or commercial or just in general?
I'm just listening to you describe your interaction with Evan and your apparent familiarity or at least understanding of these ordinances and what makes sense and what doesn't. I'm just curious, is this your first time through, or have you done something like this in the past?
I appreciate the question, Scott. To answer it, so my wife and I have had rental property since 2006. I bought a duplex at 53rd and Aldrich in South Minneapolis, and we have a triplex in Uptown, and then we had a duplex at 49th and Bryant, and we ended up selling that and taking those proceeds and rolling that into this building. So this was our first commercial property. About a month after we bought this, we purchased a industrial building in Wisconsin, close to where my parents live in Eau Claire. So I guess yes and no. So yes, it's our first commercial building.
But it's not your first interaction with codes and variances and ordinances and,
True. Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
That's what I was getting at.
Okay. Yeah.
That was my question.
No, I think the answer on the parking, I'm satisfied with that piece, that there is parking for this. And again, it seems sensible to me to make this change, but.
Well, I mean, this obviously is a chance, like Evan said, to clean up this end of the ordinance, and it kind of falls into place what you guys are trying to do. Obviously, we've had our battles with that piece of property, especially with timely repairs and upgrades, and so I'm hoping that it's going to swing also with a new owner. But saying that, I think it's kind of important that you're really on the same page as with the building inspector. I just worry about, like I said, the building codes now, you can't hardly keep up with them, and I don't know if you are allowed to even have an office space when you can't get to it ADA. I don't. So you might want to make sure before you invest anything. Obviously, I don't think that's going to stop us from maybe cleaning this up, but I think that's something you might really want to dive into before you start investing in architects and remodeling.
Sure.
But Mike, I think, is going to be able to help you through that anyway. So.
Sure. I guess my takeaway from the elevator conversation is it sounds like as long as there's not more than a capacity of 30 people up there, which it wouldn't be. It's 6 individual small offices that go from the smallest is like a glorified closet. It's 70 square feet. I think it's 6 by 12. The largest is 17 by 15. And those are just behind closed doors, and then everything else is open space. But I mean, we're talking about, you know, if there were 3 people in every office, it'd be 18. I do know that with ADA, they require 20% of a budget to be spent on ADA upgrades. And I think with just between the kitchen, the bathroom, the widened doorways, the approaches to the doors, which have to be 4 feet. You have to be able to turn a wheelchair, go in from 4 feet. Door handles that don't turn, but instead are the, you know, the
Levers.
the longer lever.
Which is kind of sad you'd have to go through all that if you can't get an elevator up there anyway. But
Especially a wheelchair.
Yeah. It's kind of, it's anachronistic in the way that, you know, this building again has been around since 1958. You know, never had an elevator. You know, there will obviously be limitations as to who would want to rent it. And we've had a couple people that were concerned about, you know, we want something on the first floor, but we've had others that it's no problem. So, I mean,
well, a big thing too is exposure. Obviously, if you're coming in the back door and it's kind of hidden back there, usually people want that frontage so they generate more business through that. But that might be a little bit of a challenge. That's why I was asking about monuments and signage, and I guess
People have offices for a lot of different reasons, and it's not really a retail, it's more people that need a space to do their thing.
yeah. And that's kind of what we thought with the way the paradigm shift with the pandemic, you know, maybe a suburban office retreat, a way to get out of the house that has great access on Highway 61, 30,000 cars a day, very, very visible and accessible, really no competition in that specific spot, and would allow for, you know, somebody to just have that place to get away from the kids, get away from the dog and the barking and the all the distractions, right?
All right, any other questions of the board?
No.
All right, thank you, Justin.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
All right, seeing as though there's no one else in the audience, I'm going to move to, or I need a motion to close the public portion.
I'll move to close the public portion of the hearing.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, board, have any other questions of Evan?
Negative.
No.
All right, what's the pleasure of the board?
Well, as I said earlier, I believe that it just cleans it up, and we've been doing this anyway. And the office, as explained and outlined, I think makes sense, and I'll move to approve the amendment change.
Does he need to read off the actual recommendation?
Might be a good idea, Steve.
It would.
Sorry.
All right. Amend section 6.4 by adding under B2 General Business Office of Ordinance number 35.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Thanks, sir.
It would also be a good idea, even though it's a change in the zoning code, to set forth your findings of fact of why you're changing it. It's pretty clear why you're changing it,
Well,
which is to clear up discrepancies and inconsistencies with the code.
I'll add that to the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Perfect.
Thanks, Chad.
All right,
I'm here for.
moving on.
Thank you, Chad.
Item 8A, this is new business. BSNA change order. This is adding license and accounts.
Yes. So we did, as noted in staff's memo here, we did have our first training with BSNA, kind of our kickoff meeting last week with all staff involved. We are gunning to get that going here within the next couple months and really getting heavy into it by March of
good night.
2024. We did come across an oversight in what it is that we required, which is noted here, the business licensing and account receivable portion of it. Dr. No has supported this. He has found the funding and has said yes.
How come we didn't find this before we went through the?
Well, No, he found the funding for it. We just didn't have this. So he's given a recommendation as to how he'd like to spread around the funds to pay for it. But this is a key component to the overall acquisition of the software and going forward.
If it was a key component, how did we
I think we assumed it was there. Yes, and don't
That's
say
another
the
word you
assume
shouldn't use.
thing.
Are we comfortable that there are no additional
Key components.
key components that are
So
missing?
there might be one. Steve, did you want to
Nope.
talk about that? Okay.
I'll leave it with you.
They're beta testing.
The ordinance.
Yes.
Right.
Beta testing that. We are going to be the first ones to be utilizing that when it is available. Late fall, early winter.
I didn't hear beta testing what?
Well, this is the solid, first off, this is the solid base, so we can do enhanced modules to this. Is this the beta testing we're talking about for ordinance compliance?
Correct.
So that if, for example, if someone is irrigating illegally, that we will have the software in place where they can upload a picture, it'll capture the address, it'll all be there without having to have an employee have confrontation with a resident, and also to verify and document the circumstances of that. So this is a step forward for us in compliance for a lot of our issues.
So that'd be all like time and dates?
Yes, everything is going to be all date stamped.
Yeah, I didn't want to steal your thunder, Steve.
Well,
That is a topic he really enjoys.
Yes.
well, yes, I do, because I don't want employees put in harm's way, and I also like to have some method that we can actually document and enforce, such as
In case
irrigating.
anybody ever questions, why
Yes.
did you? Okay.
Yeah,
So
And I
that
think-
will be coming to us as well.
yeah.
So you have no clue what funding that's gonna take?
Some.
Some
So,
When
technology has a price.
when we were going through this, and Karen brought it up that this component of it was missing. Said, if we don't have that in there, Steve's gonna freak out.
Yes, because this has been, an ongoing situation for a number of years, that we need to use technology to our advantage on all kinds of things, whether it's taking paper copies and making them electronics for future data searches, and just for that, and also to help enforce our building permit process, our ordinances that have to do with sprinkling. All of these are pieces of this technology, so that, ideally, if I remember right, we want to have the citizenry be able to find out if their neighbors have pulled a permit for roof replacements, and ultimately this technology is there. We just got to get it in a format that we can actually use and not invade people's privacy. But if there is a permit, it would be logged, and we would know that, and people don't have to wonder.
this would also help with illegal snow parking in the winter.
Yes.
that as well.
Illegal vehicles parked in the driveways in the off-season.
This is all of this together through BSNA is what you call a quantum leap. We are making up for 30 years of being behind, and we're going to do that through this process. It's going to be very intensive. It's going to have a lot of staff time involved in it, but we do believe that it is the payoff is going to be tremendous, especially if we want to keep a smaller and more efficient staff. So
Yeah, plus two, once this is up and running and implemented, that's gonna take some of the burden off the staff anyway. So.
correct.
Yes.
That is the hope.
I do remember that conversation, and it sounded great. Yes, it was a price tag, but it sounded like it was worthwhile. Just didn't realize there were going to be a couple of oversights.
Yeah.
That's why I asked, are there any other oversights?
And I told you, yeah, there will be one. Well, not an oversight. We are waiting for it to be established for us. Anyway,
All right, any other questions on the board? Now you just, this was just for discussion only, you need a motion on this.
I need a motion on this to accept this.
That's not what our agenda says.
No, it doesn't say that.
No.
I need a motion to accept this change order. In order to add
So you're asking for a motion to approve the purchase of the business license and account receivable software application at a cost of $25,865 from ARPA and capital equipment, out of capital equipment
That
funds.
sounds very much like an accurate motion.
That's very good. That's exactly what it should
That's
be.
what I was reading too.
But aren't there two?
What's that?
Aren't there two change orders?
No, just the one. We were
just the one.
talking in theory, the other one's going to be coming up.
Yeah, that is not, we don't know if that's there yet.
So we're asking for the
This one.
26,000 or the 25,865.
They combined these two, didn't they? Is that what happened? Because you got two,
I see two
yeah,
change
you got
orders.
two change requests.
Staff recommends alternative one to approve the purchase of the business licensing and accounts receivable software applications at a cost of $25,865 from ARPA and
I
capital.
understand, but we
Oh,
have,
there's 17,000.
we have two change requests though, two different amounts.
You got one for licensing for 17,000. You have another one for the business for the accounts receivable and hold it.
No,
I don't, they're the same. If you
the
look,
same.
if you look at the second one, it's cloud accounts receivable and cloud business license. The first one, which for 17,000, is simply for cloud business licensing only. So it appears to me the second one combines the first one.
But I thought, again, I thought we approved the first one when we did this whole thing.
No, that was 100, and-
That wasn't part of that number?
no. The revised, the change request says revised, and that gets that 25,865. That's all they're looking for.
that's all we're looking for today, guys.
All right. Then I will second that motion for the 25,865 only.
You're welcome.
That Steve's writing a check for.
He'll be signing
I'll
it.
sign it if you don't want to sign it, but no, I'm not.
All right, motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, that brings us to 8B, Heritage Hall irrigation.
So if you'll recall, as it's summarized very nicely in the memo from Jim Lake's staff, last year the board did not feel comfortable with the water situation and the White Bear Lake level lawsuit and a couple of other developments going on around the township, did not feel comfortable extending irrigation to Heritage Hall here. After a discussion at the executive committee this last week, the board did feel a little more amenable to that process going forward. So basically what staff did from Jim Lake was they attached, or they got an updated quote from what you received last year. They're still waiting for another one. I think in terms of what we want to do tonight is, I guess philosophically, support irrigation going in and encourage City of Jim Lake to wait for the other quote to come in before making a decision. And I think that's all we're really looking for tonight.
What about cost share?
Yeah, what about the cost share?
They're just looking for our support.
They're not looking for any funding?
Read the memo. It's
Oh, the memo says cost, I saw someplace in here cost share.
so up. No, that's okay.
It would
So
be
in
a shared
summary,
expense.
Jim Lake City Council is requesting the support of the
Shared
White Bear
expense.
Township Town Board to install an irrigation system at the shared meeting hall. City clerk will continue to pursue an updated quote from the other company to have available for July approval at the town board and city council meetings. There's no mention of cost share.
Well, it does in the memorandum of June 20th, it would be a shared expense.
At the end of the first paragraph.
First paragraph.
At the end of the first.
The memorandum to
Quotes
White
were
Bear
received
Township
and
Board.
And this new system would be,
Shared expense and we will supply the water.
I think the water is what our share is, but I'm gonna have to clarify that.
Well, I'll tell you what my 2 cents worth is. I don't mind supporting this as long as it follows our rules.
Okay.
Because I don't know if this is an even, or is, well, it's an even numbered address, but they can't be watering when we're not allowed to water, and
I totally agree. Yep.
But we have to clarify this shared expense.
Yeah, so let me do this. Chad, can the board approve the support for this, but not cost share?
You could do this, you could say, support the plan subject to review of the cost share.
And I'll assume that if there is no cost share and Jim Lake is carrying the burden total of the cost of the actual system,
Then they can proceed.
then we're okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if we're asked to cost share, what price are they talking? Are they talking the irrigation base bid, or are they talking alternatives? It says add another
That's why I don't think we're sharing in it, but
Well,
I will clarify that with them.
yeah, I'm not opening the checkbook.
In theory, are we in support of the idea?
I think what, like Steve said, I am only, but they're going to have to abide by our sprinkling regulation.
Yep.
Yes, if our ordinances change and say we're in a critical water situation, they are in a critical water situation, and they spent their money, it's unfortunate, but they can't be watering.
Yeah.
And I noticed they're putting in the rain sensors, so they're going at it the right way.
So let me ask you folks this. I mean, I'm not supporting this. This is a shared facility. Do we have an interest in putting some cash into this in terms of paying for the system, this being a shared facility? Gotta ask the question.
Now that it's coming up, we should take a look at the joint powers agreement that built this place to begin with.
Yeah, maybe just to see if these sorts of expenses, how we cover those.
Well, if you've already dealt with it, if you've already decided how to cover those, yeah.
Yeah, it might be in the joint powers.
I want to say there was a 60-40 split for expenses along the way, but we can,
What have you been doing as in terms of expenses of running this building?
since I've been here, in terms of like capital stuff,
Yeah.
we're not cash out on anything.
Okay. Well, I'd advise, look at, just, there's no, you can adopt a motion that supports the installation of the irrigation system, but you can reserve the right to determine the cost participation for a future meeting, for a future vote.
And maybe this is a moot point. Maybe they aren't expecting us to help.
And
so.
it may already be answered by the JPA.
That too. So let me get clarification on both of those, but philosophically, we're okay with an irrigation system going in on the grounds here?
I don't see why not.
I don't either.
Yes.
It's in need of it.
Obviously, there's no pond to tap into.
No. So, okay, let me get those.
All right, so that's just basically a handshake agreement here for now, until we get some more information.
I would.
All right, anything else on that?
No, that'll do it.
All right, we have no added agenda items. We have a empty house, so no open time. I need a motion to receive agenda material and supplements.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And I need a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 7:47.
In the first